chapter 2. So excited because we get into equations in this chapter. And if you remember our vocab, equations have that equal sign in it. So you guys are going to be solving equations using just addition and subtraction today. And you're going to notice that it's just one step for each of these. So this should be a review, but we're jumping into the heart of algebra here with equations. Alright, so whenever you think of equations, you should always be thinking of a balance. Because when you are solving equations, you have to keep them balanced. It's the most important thing. So I'm going to ask you guys that tomorrow. If you're watching this, then if I ask that same question, make sure you remember this balance, okay? So what would happen if you added 3 pounds to the left side? So if we add 3 pounds over here, this side is going to go down, this side is going to go up, okay? To balance it again, we'd have to, of course, put a 3 on the other side so that way they stay even. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing with these equations. So we're going to find the value of the variable to make the equation true. And if you remember, we always start by separating our sides. So this is our one side of our balance, this is the other side. In order to keep these two sides balanced and equal, we have to think of what this x could be. Sometimes it's really easy. So what plus 4 gives us 10? Well, I can do that in my head. I know that this is going to be 6 because 6 plus 4 equals 10. So that's an easy one to figure out. This one looks pretty nasty. It's got decimals in it and negatives. So this one, I'm going to have to use my inverse operations, if you remember from last year. So we're going to do the opposite to figure out what this would be. So if this is minus 8.2, doing the opposite would mean adding 8.2. Doing that gets rid of this on this side of our balance. Okay, if we get rid of it on this side, we're going to bring it to this side by doing the exact same thing. So I'm left with n equals negative 3.7. So this one was pretty nasty. Not as easy as that first one, so I had to use this process, and that's what we're going to practice today. So in order to undo addition, what would you do on the opposite side? Well, the opposite of adding is subtracting. And then the opposite of subtraction is going to be addition. So that's all we're going to do today, is try to keep these equations balanced by doing the opposite operations to figure out what that would be. So the most important thing to remember, as I said before, hopefully you know it, this is what you're going to say in class tomorrow, is they must stay balanced. So whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Math is, hopefully you remember from last year, is fair. Alright, so let's practice these not so easy equations here by doing our process. So we have x minus 45 equals negative 12. Start by separating those sides. Alright, we're going to get this x all by itself by doing the opposite. So to get rid of this negative 45 on this side, I'm going to do the opposite and add 45. That gets rid of it on this side. So all I'm left with is x. So I have to keep them balanced. So if I added 45 on this side, I have to add 45 on this side. So I'm going to get a positive 33. So notice how I'm keeping them straight, keeping them balanced and organized here on this sheet. All right, next one. Separate my sides. And this time, I am going to look at getting this n by itself. And this is actually going to be a two-stepper. It's a little weird, but it's going to be 2 steps. So this is if I just look at the 6, it's a positive 6 because there's nothing in front of it. So to get rid of this 6, I'm going to have to do minus on both sides. So think about what you're left with. On this side, we're actually left with a negative n. That's what's still left on this side. So 6 and 11 would give me 5. So I'm left with 5, and I still have this negative. So if you remember, if you have a negative variable, it's like you have an invisible 1 right here. So you have negative 1n equals 5. So to get that by itself, we're going to do the opposite, which is totally moving into what we're going to be doing tomorrow. So this was a little bit challenging. But the opposite of multiplying by negative 1 would be to add negative 1. So this one was tricky. You won't have this kind of thing on your homework tonight, but it's good to remember how to do that. All right, let's move on to this one. This one is weird because we have the variable on the wrong side. You could rewrite this entire thing and get the variable on the other side, but let me show you how you would do it this way. So automatically, if you see this double negative, do that double sweep. These are going to change to plus. So we have 7 plus m equals -3. To get m all by itself, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to subtract 7 on both sides. So we're left with m equals -10. So if we were to plug that back in, 7 plus a -10, it would give us -3 and keep our equation balanced. All right, last one. Again, I have my double sweep here. So I'm going to change this to addition. Draw my line. So I have x plus 10 equals 2. If it's plus, my opposite is going to be minus. So I'm going to subtract 10 on both sides, keep them balanced. So x is going to equal -8. So that is how you get variables alone and solve for an equation using one step. Why don't you circle this one and tell me tomorrow, along with your balance, tell me why this one was funky. And that will tell me who watched their video and who did not. So good job getting your first homework assignment done, and we'll practice this tomorrow.